Hello and welcome to the newsroom. I'm Okpayemi Owosheni and these are the stories we're tracking at the moment. The governor of Akwa commissioners and appointees to either defect with him to the All Progressive Congress or resign from their positions. Governor Eno gave the directive during the State Executive Council meeting on Thursday, confirming what has been circulating as rumors on social media for several weeks. He told the commissioners and appointees that they are not obligated to join him to the APC, but can't allow them to remain in his cabinet while in another party. And 16 Boko Haram terrorists have been killed by troops of the Joint Task Force in Kai as they attempted to infiltrate the 25th Task Force Brigade headquarters in Damboa near Sambisa Forest. The troops of the Task Force Brigade, along with members of the Civilian Joint Task Force, also recovered weapons and IED-making materials in the operations. Several of the terrorists escaped with varying degrees of injuries, while 16 of them were successfully neutralized. Meanwhile, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has returned to Mate on Thursday after spending a night in the community on Saturday. The visit was part of the ongoing effort to restore peace, rebuild trust and foster sustainable development in the Lake Chad region. During the visit, Governor Zulum held a meeting behind closed doors with military commanders aimed at servicing modalities for restoring peace in Mate and the surrounding communities. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has announced the creation of an artificial intelligence division under the FCT department. The commission made this known in a statement signed by its National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumeko, on Thursday. He said that the approval for the creation of the new division is to continue to harness the positive aspect of AI and to mitigate its negative impact on elections in the country. And on business, Governor of Enugu State Peter Umba has inaugurated the Enugu State Ease of Doing Business Council, aligning the move with his administration's commitment to transform the state economy from $4.4 billion to $30 billion by positioning it as a leading hub for business, investment, tourism and quality living. Speaking at the inauguration of the 25-member council at the state government house, Enugu, Umba, who also chairs the council, emphasized that investors are driven by returns, not charity, and will naturally gravitate towards environments that guarantee higher return on investment and a business-friendly climate. And on the foreign scene, the United States federal judge on Thursday blocked the Trump administration from dismantling the Department of Education, marking the first time a judge declared the administration's extensive changes to the department unlawful. Judge Min-Young John from the U.S. District Court, who former President Joe Biden appointed, issued a preliminary injunction prohibiting the administration from dismissing half of the department employees. Man Mohamed Salah has said that this is his best chance to take home the Ballon d'Or. He enjoyed an impressive campaign with the Reds as the league title. So far, the 32-year-old has recorded 28 goals and 18 assists. And those are the stories making the rounds from our newsroom at this time. We'll update you at the top of the hour. Welcome to the program. I'm Okbayemi Owosheni. We start off with business news. Nigeria's external reserves witnessed a net increase of over $260 million within a single week, signaling a modest improvement in the country's foreign account. Latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria revealed that the increase began on May 9th, when reserves stood at $38.12 billion. The figure had risen to $38.21 billion by May 12th. It continued again, reaching $38.30 billion on May 14th and $38.33 billion on May 15th, before closing the week at $38.38 billion on May 16, 2025. Now, the rebound follows a challenging period caused by pressure from external debt repayment, falling oil production, and volatile forex demand. And the federal and Lagos state government have called for investment in production of local goods as well as consumption of made in Nigeria products to boost small and medium enterprises in the country. Speaking at the 16th meeting of the National Council on Industry, Trade and Investment, organized by the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, the Lagos State Commissioner of Cooperatives, Trade and Investment highlights the urgent need to diversify the country's economy from over-reliance on oil. TV360's Victoria Akonde completes this next report.
Recent global shifts in energy policies, coupled with declining oil demand and volatile crude prices, have underscored the urgent need for Nigeria to reduce its reliance on oil revenues. At the state level, the Lagos state government says it is already making efforts at creating an enabling environment that will attract investment, support industrial growth, and empower businesses to thrive. While advocating more investment in producing local goods and consuming them rather than relying on importation of foreign goods, the Lagos State Commissioner for Commerce, Cooperatives, Trade and Investment, Folashade Ambrose, urges both federal and state governments to explore new markets, unlock the potential of the country's youthful population, and embrace the digital economy as a catalyst for industrial and trade expansion.
Our strategy is rooted in two far-reaching frameworks. One, the proposed Lagos State Industrial Policy, LSIP, 2025 to 2030, which redefines industrialization as a deliberate, inclusive, and technological-driven enterprise focused on local value addition, manufacturing excellence, and green industrial growth.
In his address, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, says Nigeria must swiftly implement necessary measures to diversify its economy.
Build up labor-intensive sectors, all right? And of course, produce locally for domestic consumer market. I made a reference earlier on that economic activities are in three planks: production, consumption, then exchange or trade in between. Now, my recommendation with respect to production is that we should look at what India did. India began to promote a concept. They called it Make in India. Not made, Make in India. Which speaks to the fact that we make our geography conducive to manufacturers to produce within India. Now, the same thing can be done by every subnational.
Other speakers urged the governments to adopt policies that will make Nigeria's manufacturing sector conducive for both local and international manufacturers.
Studies have indicated that flexible work-hour arrangements within the clusters, and that's what our study shows, have led to improved employee performance and retention, highlighting the importance of adaptive human resource practices in manufacturing sector. However, like I said, challenges such as infrastructure deficit and over-regulation by government agencies, 3 tiers of government agencies, persistently result in suboptimal performance. I move to another part of the country, Aba manufacturing cluster. The ability measures and reducing bureaucratic hurdles are essential to create a more attractive environment for businesses within these clusters. Provision of tax incentives can encourage investments and growth, simplifying trade procedures and reducing import duties on raw materials will lower production costs and improve competitiveness.
All the speakers say Nigeria has the potential to become number one in Africa in the industrial sector. They also call on the government at all levels to aggressively explore the non-oil sector, which they argue holds strong potential, revenue generation, job creation and economic transformation. Victoria Akonde, TV360 News, Lagos.
We'll go on a break now and be back with company news. Welcome back. The Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, has reassured the public of the stability and safety of the country's banking sector, describing recent media reports questioning the financial health and unfounded. In a statement issued by its president, Pius, it emphasized that such publications are intended to disrupt ongoing reforms and undermine the steady progress made in strengthening the financial system. Now, aligning with the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CIBN urged the public to disregard false narratives and rely solely on information from verified sources. Now, there's more ahead when the Money Matters return. We'll break down why the Central Bank of Nigeria is holding interest rates steady again. Stay with us for more details. Now, for the second consecutive time in 2025, the Central Bank of Nigeria retained the monetary policy rate, which benchmarks interest rate in the country at 25%. Now, this is the Apex Bank 300 monetary. The CBN governor reviewed that the committee retained the cash reserve ratio at 50% and liquidity ratio at 30%. TV360's correspondent Tamiloye Akinkolye has more details on the outcome of the CBN's MPC briefing in this next report.
The CBN governor says the decision to maintain MPR at 27.50% was unanimous and reflects a conservative policy stance aimed at consolidating the effects of earlier tightening measures. He also said the committee noted the relative improvements on indicators, which are expected to see overall moderation in term, such as the narrowing gap between and BBC windows, as well as the price of PMS.
Retain the 0.50%. 2. The MPR at plus 500 to minus 100 basis points. Ratio of deposit money banks at 16%.
Referencing the latest inflation figures, which is to 23.71% in April 2025, down from 24.2%. Efforts in boosting food supply and addressing insecurity. However, the committee also acknowledged ongoing inflation measures, including high electricity tariffs.
This improvement was driven by both the oil gross external reserves increased by 2.85% to $38.90 billion as of 16th of May 2025 from $37.82 billion as of of March 2025.
Interest from foreign investors and boosting confidence in the economy. While acknowledging the challenges faced with leadership the past 18 months, Kaiso assured Nigerians that ongoing
that we literally need to reset completely and start over again. And we're doing so. But those things I want to assure you is that we'll be consistently over the past 18 months, and we believe that once we continue in that direction, we will be successful in building back the trust that has been so badly eroded over a period of time.
With monetary policy or inflation over change, all eyes will now be on how inflation, currency markets respond in the coming months. Tamilora for TV360, Lagos.
Now back the decision and wider impact. I'm not joined by financial analyst Femi Oladele. Thank you for joining me on the Gram Style, Oladele. Now, why do you think the CBN has shown to hold the interest consecutive time despite inflation? So, what will you say the underlying cases prioritizing?
Thank you so much and good morning once again. So I'd say that all of the units of no clearly still highlighted, but I would personally that one of the significant reasons is that it's a learning phase for the CBN. Many things are going on in the monetary space, including the fiscal, and it looks like knowledge is out of touch and we want to learn what happened. So I believe simply, while they might say, oh, inflation figures are affects demands and there's a bit of stability in FX and all of that, really more significant is the fact that it's a learning phase and you want to understand what the is doing at this time. You want to understand the effect of policies and the economy before they now shake the tables. That's what's in my opinion is the reason for the attention I did.
All right, speaking of asked with hikes that we saw in 2024. Now, what does this double oath suggest about the CBN's monetary policy outlook? Would you also call it a learning phase, and also about its confident current inflation that was so far this year?
Generally, 2024, I would say is a many people used it shows the simple language. So I wouldn't call it in that time, many things. There was heightened political tension. Security was a big deal, especially in food producing areas. There was also the issue with people having and we brought in the monetary policy significant discussions or insight into figures. But right now, I would say that the I see, especially with respect to what's happening now, we see significantly in fiscal space that a lot of activity masses. We want nation to maybe $1 to less 5 naira, but that's not. So that's the expectation this I'm talking about. That you mentioned about electricity, it's a significant issue. Internet access and so many other things. All research, but looking at it generally, we have improvements and stability, and I think that's a very good for the government.
They've risked into MPR consecutively. Now, what do you say the likely effect of changing interest businesses, especially meat and manufacturers?
Thank you. So many times, this MPR does not. We have 10.5%. Does not mean that when you say if I pre loan of 30, 33. Increase because the retention does not mean reduction, then we could say that some facility even looks like retention on face value. For businesses, it actually means facility holders will their debtors to say we're increasing so much. So I don't expect a significant increase in wage using 1 to 2 people. But I'm expecting that there will be a little bit of that this took the last one. So I and when you don't come economy where cash flows don't slow down borrowings.
Effectiveness and retention. Do you think 0.50% effects in curbing inflation? Is now doing more harm real sector productivity? Keep in mind that the main reason why they kept on so not that inflation.
I have significant with the inflation figures. You know, I earlier mentioned one time that I don't know the previous methodology. Because I recently released less reservations. Consider that the reason indices is to see mentioned in many times that cannot use just one to change factors. There will be economic factors, there will be social factors. Just hearing about these things swing reach at 27. Other factors that are significant managing inflation are them infrastructure, energy. If those things are not, there is no magic that the MPR would do. So
on commercial banks and overall liquidity in the economy. What will you say at the short term? Good one.
So I don't think it's not good. Why? Because it's also moderated. Banks at 16%. There's so really because want to access more, know how to do that, and so that figure is actually in my need to reduce that figure. Even that won't be a problem at all.
Policy alone in our. I know you mentioned that it's not very effective. Now let's pricing and security. What other things the government needs to do to like put it and other things to
enhancing improving. When we talk about improving energy, we also have higher cost translates to for us as well. We look at other areas. In that area, all of them to in isolation, because in isolation it can do little. If we run, imagine we are doing it theoretically and we run a control the MPR has over inflation, very exclude all of those focus on issue in this interview, and I understand that it's important that we discuss its impact as a whole and not just the MPR alone. Other assumptions where we are in Nigeria at this time for the NPR to be put that would ensure the inflation rate. So if you ask me what, aside the real sector, what rent is doing at this time, you will understand many states are beginning to raise concern increasing rates, and the land difficult. So go and talk to the government. Issues in the to reduce the NPR to, which I know that was 20%. It's barely half the inflation in isolation.
All right. No mention during the competitive current as and also confidence, because according to him, many
So, but the question is what as FPI as because we need to make those understand that investors have power limit. Don't rely on FPIs alone. It takes time, and I've is an advocate for patients. Have patience for us to. You can't develop and be like develop so with short-term investments. We need to the long of mortgage in other clients for 25 years. When you're looking at 12 months, enough that we need, and so we have to. And so if I provide a solution, I would say significantly patient now build. Investors are coming. Are they patient enough to ensure that we ecosystem can sustain itself? they're just going to come in and pull out after a few months or maybe 1 to 2 years. That's not good for our economy. And CBN is doing its best those inflows and go out that way. And we get FDI develop our real sectors.
All right, so briefly, just before I let you go, do you think there are any risk of over the economy, especially with such elevated interest rates and restricted liquidity?
No, I don't think so. But in the next MPC meeting, I'm hoping that rates will be reduced. This is my own hope, that the rates will be reduced so that it gives a bit of, because we are looking at a 2025 where we make more impact, especially in the MSME sector. And if that is to be done, then we need more access to finance. And if we need access to finance, we need them to be affordable also, so that you can ensure that we can produce well and also contribute significantly to the economy. So I don't think we should be looking at tightening anymore, and so we should be looking at reducing the rates in the coming days.
Well, we'll keep monitoring what the CBN will do ahead of the next MPC meeting. Financial analyst Femi Olade, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program.
It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that's it for this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okpeyemi. See you next. Right top-ranking Army generals brainstormed for 3 days to discuss the way forward to safeguard national peace and security. He insisted that every strategic decision made at the conference must be adopted to achieve the set objectives of the first biannual conference. The Security Advisor Ribadu made these remarks during the President Bola Tinubu's administration. Destruction caused by dissemination works confirmed that all full structural completion, including flyovers, and follow during the. And the Kano State Judicial Service Commission has taken decisive disciplinary action against judicial officers, concluding the demotion of a court registrar in Ishaibuba Jibo Ibrahim, the spokesperson of the state judiciary. The decisions were made during the JSS 82nd meeting held on Wednesday. According to him, the Commission's actions follow the adoption of recommendations from the Judicial Public Complaints Committee, which investigated various allegations. And on being a German counterpart, you rarely know the ministry has identified the cooperation as key to economic relations, together with the need to intensify trade relations, particularly in critical raw materials, and also promote cooperation in labor migration. On the foreign scene, clashing Southern's army fighters back in the Republic have killed at least 75 civilians since February, according to the United Nations Human Rights Chief. South's independence from Sudan in 2011, due to a war between 2013 and 2018 that left around 400,000 dead and 3 million people displaced. On Twitter, official felt Carlo Ancelotti had already been announced as the next president had remained. Left on his contracts, the Italian tactician ends his second spell at the club with a legacy of silver and respect. That is taking the rounds from our newsroom at this time. We'll update you at 6 p.m.
Very good business. Yeah. The furniture you brought was that way. I couldn't tell you do well. That is not again from here. Rubbish. Look, man.